Hi, welcome, and I'm going to make some announcements. Super Sundays at the end of the month. There's a sign-up sheet in the back for the community kitchen helpers. And on Monday at my house, I'm doing the Climate Smart Bainbridge, and we're going to try to see if we can get enough people to sign up to put on a climate congressional candidate forum for the two people that make it through the primary, the two lead people. If we don't have enough people for that, because we're kind of maxed out with all our volunteer stuff, we're just going to write letters to get people to vote. All right, thank you.
Do you introduce me at some point? Yes, but do you introduce me at some point, or shall I do it myself? I can do it myself. Hello, beloveds. I'm the Reverend Deanna Vandiver, she, they pronouns. I live here on Bainbridge Island, and it is my joy to join you this morning. I work with our UU College of Social Justice and with the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. And there's buku information and stickers and buttons on the back table if you're looking for any good stuff today. Before I begin with our opening words and worship, I want us to take a breath together. Our Unitarian Universalist Association has issued a statement on the shooting at the Pennsylvania political rally, and I will share it with you this morning. Unitarian Universalism believes in the right of free speech and the democratic process. Attacks like those on Saturday's political rally weaken democracy, and the Unitarian Universalist Association condemns this attack. At a time when democracy is already at risk, these events will only make our political environment more precarious. As we prepare to meet this moment, we must return to our spiritual grounding and faithful practice. Take a breath. Reflect together. Wait for emerging truth over quick speculation. Anchor yourself in communities and relationships that foster resilience, liberation, and strategy. Cultivate nuance and seek out deep wisdom, political analysis, and spiritual grounding, as misinformation will be rampant. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition is rooted in the values of human dignity, justice, compassion, and democratic principles. We will remain vigilant in our commitment to protecting our democracy and the integrity of its principles and the rights of all people. Let us keep love at the center. We are in this together. Before Johanna offers the chalice lighting, I will offer us our words of opening by the beloveds Wendy Bartell and Lynn Gardner. From our separate joys and struggles, we come here to find the peace of balance, to find the blessing of restlessness. All are welcome. To follow, to lead, to teach, to learn, all are welcome. To join the dance, to catch our breath, all are welcome. To give generously, to receive gratefully, all are welcome. If we are steady and composed, if we feel completely lost, if we don't know what we're feeling, this community has a place for us. Here we matter and we are loved. If you are steady and poised, if you feel completely lost, if you don't know what you feel, this community has a place for you. You matter. You are loved. Let us now worship together, dear ones.
Good morning, and welcome to Cedars Unitarian Universalist Church. It is my honor to serve as your worship associate today, alongside our guest minister, Reverend Deanna Vandiver. Thank you, Deanna, for introducing yourself. I apologize for not getting that information in the order of service. Thanks for all you who are here with us and you who are watching online. The title of her sermon, Becoming Abolition, was quite honestly a puzzle for me to decipher when I first read it. Abolition, to me, has always meant the eradication of slavery, and maybe I'm not alone in that. We're done with that, right? Of course we are not, but that was my first reaction. I now realize that the idea of abolition can be applied to any cultural practice that harms humans and other living beings. I understand that the phrase becoming abolition can mean that we apply that initiative to dismantle any damaging behavior and ask, who can we become as a caring community when we resist oppression? Oh my, where to start? One initiative that has intrigued me for years is the idea of inmate-led hospice centers in federal prisons. As many of you know, I am active in the end-of-life arena, and I come across many unique and inspiring stories about programs and ideas related to that in the course of my work. Hospice has been near and dear to me since my father enrolled in it in October 2018 and died with their amazingly dedicated staff taking care of him in February of 2019. For a few years now, I've been interested in the idea of hospices in prisons. According to a study published by the Prison Policy Initiative, each year spent in prison shortens one's life expectancy by 2 years. That means that a man who is incarcerated at age 25 with a life sentence, who would normally live until 75 or older, is likely to experience serious illness and or die by age 50. That's 25 years not lived. Women have a longer life expectancy, so that could be as many as 30 or 35 years gone, poof. In an NPR article from February this year, one inmate who worked in the hospice program states that more people died in 1 year at Angola, the Louisiana State Prison, than were released. More people died in 1 year than were released. The first prison hospice program was started there in 1998, and inmates provide all of the non-medical care. The rules had to be changed to allow physical contact between inmates, and hospice workers are allowed to move freely throughout the buildings. It has been life-changing for those in all roles, from dying persons to wardens, from those who serve as caregivers to the head of the facility. It is an opportunity to witness what all of us have in common, our mortality, and a great example of creating community where isolation and degradation is the norm. The idea of incarcerating humans is actually absolutely horrifying and in absolutely horrifying and unsafe conditions, which can be found at pretty much every state and federal prison. Thinking that that will somehow rehabilitate us is an idea well past its time. In the US, we have both the highest rate of incarceration per capita and the highest rate of gun ownership. It's pretty obvious that imprisonment is not the answer. I looked up the disparity in incarceration by skin color, and those we label Black people are an average of 6 times more likely than those we call white people to be imprisoned. 6 times. In some states, it's up to 12 times higher. The rate for Indigenous people is 4 times higher, according to the Prison Policy Initiative. This organization works to document and publicize how mass incarceration punishes our entire society. Their research exposes the many factors that contribute to the overall incarceration rate. Some of those include the war on drugs, for-profit prisons, and tough-on-crime initiatives and immigration policies. According to their website, 1 in 4 so-called offenders will go to jail or prison again within a year of being released, which highlights the lack of resources available in our society. Which leads me to the idea of a caring community. What does that look like in terms of the future of possibly abolishing the prison system? Again, I turned to the Prison Policy Initiative website and found an article on finding early exits, as they call it, from the road to going to prison. You may have heard of diversion programs or the alternative to incarceration options, and I recommend you visit that site if you are interested in becoming abolition in regards to this issue. I leave you with this poem by Shole Wolpe, Prisoner in a Hole. Barely 25, he smells of yesterday's spit and vomit. Black beard droops in clumps from his drawn, sun-savaged face. Hanging from a string around his neck, a small holy book. This man was once a child, held against the breast of a mother, who kissed his small, meaty hands that smelled of milk and tears. I dedicate the lighting of our chalice to the abolitionists of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Please join me in reciting our affirmation as printed in the order of service. As we come together to worship, we remind ourselves to treat all people kindly because we are one family. Take the earth because it is our home, and to live lives full of health and goodness, because that is how we will all become the best that we can be.
Friends, a week ago, I had the joy of serving as chaplain at Camp Blue Boat. Am I loud enough? Okay. At Camp Blue Boat, for 70 Unitarian Universalist middle schoolers and high school age youth. It was amazing, and I was very tired when I got back home. One of the games we played while we were there was called I Love My Friends and Neighbors Who. And I bring that game to you this morning, but I want to do a quick check of who is here in the room. Does anyone feel like moving around, or would you rather stay seat-bound? That's what I was gathering from up here. So we're going to adapt like we always do. And so in this moment, part of how we build community is discovering who we are together, right? And so I love my friends and neighbors who is an invitation for some person to say, I love my friends and neighbors who, and then I say a true thing about myself. And if it's also true about you, there would be some running around. But in this instance, we'll invite you to raise a hand. And everything is consent-based always in Unitarian Universalism. So if it's true about you, but you do not wish to share it at this moment, you can keep your hand to yourself. And maybe this is how we will. Maybe the last person, after I say, look around, so that we know these things about each other. Maybe the last person who puts their hand down wants to offer the next true thing, and I'm the one who runs around. How does that feel, like an adaptation? We'll try it. Okay. All right. I love my friends and neighbors who are firstborn children. Uh-huh. That mean I am? Yes. I was pretty sure, Sally. Oh, beautiful. Look around, friends. All right. I wasn't fast. Was it you? Would you like to share one?
I'm one of them. I love my friends and neighbors who are so accepting of our gay daughter and her wife and their son.
Yay. Beautiful. All right, coming to you.
I'm accepting of my neighbors and friends who wave when they're driving down the street and they want to greet anybody who's walking their dog.
I love my friends and neighbors who wave too. All right. Would you like to share? I love my friends and neighbors who?
Oh, I don't have one.
Sandy?
Let's see. I love my friends and neighbors who talk late at night hashing the news of the day.
I love my friends and neighbors who talk late at night hashing the news of the day. Anybody? All right, but you're still a no, Steve. There you go. I love my friends and neighbors who?
I love my friends and neighbors who garden in the pea patch.
Aw, yay. We find each other. Would you like to offer one? Thanks, Jen.
I love my friends and neighbors who water my plants when I'm gone on vacation.
I water plants while people are on vacation. Does anybody else water plants while people are on vacation? Dean, you up for one?
I love my friends and neighbors who look out for one another in all respects.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Thank you, friends. Thank you for taking care of each other. Thank you for taking care of yourself. Self-care and collective care are like this, right? Thank you. I love these friends and these neighbors. And I probably don't need to talk into two mics at once. Thank you, sound. Beautiful. Oh, and so I invite us to take a breath in and out. And if you will offer to in this space this phrase, I love my friends and neighbors. May it be so. Thank you, friends.
Make you sense that.
Whew, yeah. We are invited into a centering moment, and soon joys and sorrows, and then Johanna and I will share with you some centering hymns practice. So I invite you to, however you need to let yourself know that we're in a place where you can breathe. Bring your whole and holy being. Spirit of life and love. The world is on fire, and we still fall in and out of love. We tend to births and deaths and everything in between. We who live on the fence lines are beloved to serve on the front lines. We who call for peace, we who center a love that is a powerful love, a love that does not let us go and keeps us connected to all beings. Taking a breath in and out. Let us hold a moment of collective quiet for all that we hold in our beings. For all that we hold in this world. Breathing in and out. So it is.
At this time in our service, we invite you to come forward and share with this community anything that you would like to. If it's a joy, we invite you to pour some water in the bowl so that we may celebrate with you. If it's a sorrow, please choose a stone and know that we hold you deeply in our hearts. For those watching at home, this part of the service will neither be live streamed nor recorded, and we invite you to take a moment and know that we are thinking of you. Please stay. water to represent those sorrows that we hold closely in our hearts, and a little more water to express our joy.
As Fran has named so fortuitously, singing brings joy. And in this centering moment, we're going to practice together. You're invited to learn a few, but it's not a whole song, it's just a beautiful fragment of a song. We're going to sing a few of those, one from camp and one from Beautiful Chorus. And then we're going to see if we can sing them together, just for all the beautiful things that moving air like that does to human beings. So the first is Love is Like a River. And we'll sing it, and then as it comes, you can join in. Actually, maybe I'll line this one out first. So I'll sing to you, and you sing back to me, so we learn. Love is like a river as it flows to the sea. Love is like a river as it flows to the sea. And it flows through you, and it flows through me. Beautiful. Let's do that a few times. Love is like a river and it flows to the sea, and it flows to you and it flows to me. Pick your key, pick your range. This is congregational singing. There's no wrong way to do it. Love is like a river as it flows to the sea, and it flows through you and it flows through me. Love is like a river as it flows to the sea, and it flows through you and it flows through me. Beautiful. And then Beautiful Chorus offers us, I release. I release all things that no longer serve me. I release all things that no longer serve me. I release all things, new part, that no longer work for me. I release all things that no longer work for me. Beautiful. When these songs are sung together, wild things can happen. I'm here for wild things, and Johanna is too, thank goodness. So we will begin with Love is Like a River as it flows through the sea. If you're joining us online, you get to pick your part, and we will live into the mystery as to which one you chose. But we'll all start together with Love is Like a River, and then I will begin singing I Release All Things, and if that is what you need to sing today, beloveds, join in with me. Are we ready? Love is like a river as it flows to the sea, and it flows through you and it flows through me. Love is like a river as it flows to the sea, and it flows through you and it flows through me. It's like a river as it flows to the sea, flows through you and it flows through me. I release all things that no longer serve me. I release all things that no longer work for me. I release all things that no longer serve me. I release all things that no longer work for me. Two more times. I release all things that no longer serve me. I no longer work for me. Once I release all things that no longer serve me. I release all things that no longer work for me.
Oh, my goodness. I needed singing this morning and singing in community. Wow. Thank you. We are in a time of great change in our country, where we live, where we spend our Sunday mornings. And it's a challenging time, definitely. There are many questions that are unanswered, and your presence here this morning is much, much appreciated. We need people here, we need people involved, and another way we show caring is to financially support Cedars as a community. So I invite the ushers to come forward and receive the offering. Thank you so much for your generosity.
I'm delighted to join you all this morning from your Unitarian Universalist Service Committee and your UU College of Social Justice to lift up the project of creation we are all participating in, rooted in elevating a liberatory politic and UU values as we live into this great unraveling, this great turning. In this moment, we acknowledge that this is a liminal Sunday here at Cedars UU, the first gathered worship after the departure of the Reverend Zachary Vinson, who served as a minister here with y'all for 5 years, half a decade through a global pandemic and many changes in our world. Although Reverend Zachary is no longer the minister here at Cedars, he and his husband Elliot remain Suquamish residents and Kitsap County neighbors, and I invite us to remember this and act accordingly as we process our own response to the closing of this chapter of ministerial leadership in this congregation. We are all in this together, and as the Reverend Barbara Jarrell of All Souls UU Church in Shreveport, Louisiana writes, "Change is seldom easy. Change that changes us is hard. But here we are. Here we are. And sometimes in the midst of change, with our minds rapidly traveling the river of time into the past and the yet unfolding future, it can be helpful to ground ourselves in this moment, into our bodies, into the present. And so I invite you to join me in an embodied practice, grounding practice now. As you are willing and able, I invite you to take a clearing breath. And as you exhale, you're invited to touch, if you're willing and able, your thumb to your index finger. And you can say, I am here, now. And you can say it with changing emphasis. I am here now. I am here now. I am here now. Let us be here now together. And I pull this one out whenever I get a little dysregulated in the onslaught of the world, so I commend it to you. And may we be present for all that comes up in these times of transition. I invite y'all to treat yourself and each other as gently as possible. One of the ways of moving this invitation to collective care into our bodies is to sing it in. Fran, I'm glad you're here this morning. And so I'm going to invite y'all to join me in a call and response song by the fabulous Reggie Harris. Hopefully you know him. This one is In the Shelter of Each Other, and we'll just do the chorus. So you're welcome to remain seated, or if you want to rise up, by all means, do so. I invite you to sing back to me. In the shelter of each other, in the shelter of our lives, we are open, we are dreaming, we are hopeful, we are wise. Let's try it again, friends. In the shelter of each other, in the shelter of our lives, we are open, we are dreaming, we are hopeful, we are wise. May it be so, friends. May it be so. As we engage in these spiritual practices together, breathing, grounding, singing, connecting, we are practicing becoming abolition, a creative, generative state where all are worthy of love and belonging. Ruthie Wilson Gilmore and Angela Davis teach us that abolition is a project of creation to end our punitive defaults, criminalization, policing, prisons. We need to build up life-affirming spaces, life-affirming practices, institutions, and infrastructures that generate care and safety. Our imaginations are essential for this task, releasing that which no longer serves our collective humanity and co-creating communities of collective care that honor everyone's humanity. Today, I'm going to share invitations for engagement with Pink Haven Coalition, which is the protective stage name for a trans Indigenous-led mutual aid collective that is truly practicing the project of becoming and building up life-affirming infrastructure together. I want to thank Johanna for speaking to the importance of our work around prison abolition, and I commend to you, as well as the websites that you have pointed out, the Worthy Now project that our Church of the Larger Fellowship is engaged in. It is such a powerful way to get proximate and to really understand what's happening. I've been a part of the letter writing since 2004, and the insight into what was happening inside of prisons during a pandemic was available to me through that relationship in a way that I would not have a way to know otherwise. And so I just commend to you. There's just so many ways, so many ways to practice becoming abolition. Universalism, that second U in our UU tradition, is grounded in a trust that all of us are held by a vast love. All of us. The lived experience of this faith tradition has left a lot of people out. And we are invited to try again and again to live lives that reflect our faithful aspirations. Universalism proclaims that no one is outside of love, that not one soul is disposable, no matter what the legislators decide or the police enforce. Whether you are being stigmatized and criminalized because of your social identity or your social location, systemic violence requires a faithful response. Becoming abolition is a faithful response. While a writer in residence at the University of Washington, Madison Snyder wrote an elegant essay on the vigilant imagination of abolition. They wrote, "The work is continual, slow burn justice. Abolition rejects the idea that anyone is disposable and reinstates hope in the healing. Engaging in practices of constant becoming pave the way toward a world built on a foundation of care rather than harm." We know that anger can be an appropriate emotional response to boundaries violations and unmet needs. And y'all, there's a lot of anger in our world right now. So many boundaries violations, so many unmet needs. Civil rights legend Ruby Sales learned to ask, where does it hurt? Because it's a question that gets to the heart of the matter. Ruby Sales says we must be as clear about what we love as about what we hate if we want to make change. And as Snyder concludes in their abolition essay, what abolitionists have taught me is the value of holding space simultaneously for world building and radical dismantling. What ultimately must be abolished are the means by which community resources are drained to perpetuate harm and present the community back to itself as unworthy of care. Those who see the current situation as untenable or too far gone are pessimists, and abolitionists cannot be pessimists. The vigilant imagination of abolition is a confluence of resistance to persistent and evolving forms of oppression and steadfastness in the knowledge that another world is possible. Emergent strategy organizer and poet Adrienne Marie Brown reminds us, and we are never I. Even when we are lonely, even when we distinctly suffer, even when we distinctly succeed, we are of lineage, of collective, of era, of farmers' hands and strangers' prayers, of singers with their heads thrown back. We are always dancing with our ghosts and praying for our great-great-grandchildren. We are always the harvest, and the future is being decided. The future is being practiced. The future is being planted in this breath. Breathe with me, and this breath, and this breath. And so we breathe in, noticing the gift we too often take for granted, not knowing how many breaths I have left. I want to spend them being love. Being love. Now there is a through line in Unitarian Universalism stretching through history and heresy, splits and mergers, conflict and covenant. The through line practice of our emergent faith tradition is being love. Not professing love, not believing in love, being love. It is through the faithful practice of love that we fumble together towards beloved community, sometimes painfully, sometimes joyfully, always imperfectly, a part of the project of becoming. And one such project of becoming is an organization led by trans indigenous activists who approached the Unitarian Universalist Association, the UU College of Social Justice, and Unitarian Universalist Service Committee last year to ask if we could help two-spirit, trans, and gender-expansive queer folks relocate to safer states, connecting mutual aid networks for financial aid, housing, transportation, evacuations, legal support, and help with settling in new states, along with guidance and connections to further resources. These grassroots partners had already experienced violations of their own human rights and foresaw the hateful wave of human rights violating legislation that came in the past 2 years. What we now call the Pink Haven Coalition came to include the UU College of Social Justice and UUSC because they had seen the work that we did with CAPAS, our communities, used to be congregations, community asylum project with asylum seekers, CAPAS. Does anyone here know about CAPAS or online? Oh, friends, I invite you to a quick Google after the service of CAPAS and UU, which will tell you more about this program if you're interested. It's where Unitarian Universalist congregations have been accompanying asylum seekers through the whole process as they've come here. And these organizers saw that and said, oh, I bet these UU people have some skills in joining us. And as Aaron Reed has written, several states rolled out a slew of laws targeting every facet of transgender lives, from censoring books that address their existence, stifling art forms, banning health care, policing their very movement. In stark contrast, a much narrower band, sadly, of states has forged ahead in the opposite direction, enacting laws that shield transgender individuals from these crushing measures. And friends, I would like to invite us to take a breath in and out and celebrate that we live in a state that has forged ahead in the opposite direction, enacting laws that shield trans and gender expansive beloveds from the crushing human rights violations that have been enacted in at least 38 of the 50 states. These bills are legislating trans and queer people out of existence. Please know that this is not hyperbole. Because of these laws, trans people in the United States now meet the definition of internally displaced people, IDPs, as defined by the United Nations. Hundreds of thousands of trans beloveds and their families have already fled their homes to safer states, and according to last year's Data for Progress survey, more than 1 million two-spirit, trans, and gender-expansive human beings are in the process of moving for their lives. So the UU's joined in to this coalition, and the Pink Haven Coalition interfaith with Quakers, Jews, Mennonites, United Church of Christ, mutual aid organizations, everyone willing to say, we won't let this happen, not on our watch, willing to show up in solidarity. And we're working together to create networks of safety and direct support. And because Washington is a state where human rights organizers have managed to protect the human rights of trans and gender expansive beloveds, a lot of folks are coming this way. And so I am extending to you this morning a very concrete and local invitation into accompaniment, into a mutual aid network practicing engaged empathy and relationship with human beings, resisting the violation of their very right to exist in this country. Our well-being is tied up with the well-being of all the people around us. These are our grandchildren. These are our religious professionals. These are our cousins. These are our friends. UUSC is actively asking Washington Unitarian Universalists to offer welcoming villages, to serve as hosts and housing support. While many of the calls to action ask you to call and write your policymaker or to show up for public witness, this is an ask for worthy accompaniment. And there's such a high need for emergency transitional housing in Washington that we invite you to take a truly mindful inventory of your collective resources. Do you have access to RVs, mobile homes, vacation rentals, ADUs, and for those of y'all truly called to the art of hospitality, guest rooms? If this is an action that calls to you, or if you're connected to Washington-based resources that can support this human rights effort, we invite you to please let us know. pinkhaven.org is where we're collecting all the information, and there's some cards on the back table as well as stickers and buttons, all sorts of invitations. Our lives are deeply connected to and through each other. The interdependent web of all existence is always there, waiting to be revealed, as Canadian organizer Nikita Valerio declared in a tweet that went viral, shouting self-care at people who actually need community care is how we fail people. Abolition is at once generative, creative, and loving practices, as well as the perpetual undoing of long-held assumptions and the harms of difference. What makes a crime? The perpetuation of the harmful carceral systems, genocidal policies. Abolition is a project of becoming. When simply being a person is made a crime, we have to reimagine our relationship with abolition. This has always been a matter of collective care. And as Mr. Ernest Johnson of Ubuntu Village in New Orleans reminded the Practice delegation visiting last May, we keep each other safe. And we can. As the poet Marge Piercy reminds us in the poem The Low Road, two people can keep each other sane, can give support, conviction, love, massage, hope, sex. Three people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With four, you can play bridge and start an organization. With six, you can rent a whole house, eat pie for dinner with no leftovers, and hold a fundraising party. A dozen make a demonstration, 100 fill a hall, 1,000 have solidarity and your own newsletter, 100,000 your own media, 10 million your own country. It goes one at a time. It starts when you care to act. Starts when you do it again, and they said no. It starts when you say we. It starts when you say we and know who you mean. And each day, you mean one more. I love my friends and neighbors who choose love again and again, who choose to be a part of the project of creation, who choose to be a part of collective care, who both love and are held by the vast web of love that will not let us go. I love you, dear friends and neighbors. Thank you for being love in this wild, wild world.
Our closing hymn in the teal book here, 1053. And I want to warn you that we're going to try to do it twice, and there is no gap between the end of the first time and the beginning of the second time, so be on your toes.
We will now extinguish our chalice. You may stand or be seated as you choose.
Yay.
Please repeat after me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth.
The warmth of community or the fire of commitment.
The warmth of community or the fire of commitment.
These we hold in our hearts until we are together again.
These we hold in our hearts until we are together again. And the future is being decided. The future is being practiced. The future is being planted in this breath, in this breath. And so we breathe in, noticing the gift we too often take for granted. Not knowing how many breaths we have left, may we want to spend them being love. Let us become abolition together, dear ones. Go in peace and be love in this wild, wild world. Be so.